is Will Dalton, and ask Will Dalton to tell you a little bit about the CalCap program. Thank you.
What I want to do today is talk about three key items. The first one is introduce you to Crossroads. The second one is explain some of our creative underwriting and flexibility and how that may assist you in securing grants. And thirdly, give you some examples of what we've done in the past. This first slide simply expands upon some of my experience working with Fortune 500 companies, privately held companies, and banks. And that's just a microcosm of some of the management experience that exists with Crossroads. So who is Crossroads? Crossroads is a privately held, locally owned equipment leasing company that specializes in transportation. Located in the Inland Empire, specifically in Rancho Cucamonga. 14 leasing and financing professionals with a management experience combined of over 80 years. So what does that mean to you? It means we've seen deals. Jeff alluded to earlier in his speech that we worked with our partner DTF in the ports as program administrator, operationally doing some of the docs and looking at viewing, touching thousands and hundreds of deals and applications. That's important because we bring that experience and expertise when we're looking at your deals. We have the ability, as I mentioned before, and we're going to get more detail, to talk about creative financing. What we're finding as a privately held company, we're not bound by some of the local regulatory requirements that banks and other finance companies have. And so we're able to be creative in that process. I mentioned before DTF, we have a dedicated financing partner. What does that mean to you? You've seen banks enter the market and exit the market as times got tough. We're committed to the transportation sector, and as such, we'll be with you through the high times as well as the low times. In that, we're going to provide a product offering that includes not only track leases, retail loans, but if you're vocational and it's centered around a harvest, we can provide seasonal step payments. If you need a line of credit because you want to go out to an auction, we can provide that. So we go well beyond just simply grants and the grant process, and certainly that's going to be our focus here today, but we can do grant as well as non-grant financing. I mentioned working in the ports. That allowed us to see what was really going on in the marketplace in Southern California. And it's kind of unique because we're the first to go through these phases of emissions. And so we're seeing some of the challenges that some of the licensed motor carriers face. Again, because of our experience though, Crossroads is able to provide financing both from the investment grade account all the way down to the single owner op. And so we can take big, small municipalities as well. As I mentioned before, since we're a privately held company, we're able to operate outside the box in terms of financing. Traditionally, you'll see finance companies and banks, they are driven by a FICO score. And what's that? That's a 3-digit score that we all have. Some of us pull it on a regular basis, some of us choose not to. But it is a score that predicts the ability of you to pay on time in a timely fashion. Most banks use 660 or better. In the graph that you see in the far left column, you'll see the ranges of FICO score. 660 is the norm or better. 676 is the national average. When you look at the far right column, the best I can give you of Crossroads flexibility is you see that number 46%. That's in our existing portfolio today. That's proof positive that nearly half of our existing portfolio falls well below the national or industry averages. So we're able to operate outside the norms and to provide you the financing package that best suits your business. With nearly half our portfolio in the subprime category, how is Crossroads able to do that? And that's what I want to talk about. It's not just through verifying of home sources. It's not just looking at time in business. It's going a little bit deeper than that. It's understanding the different types of hauls that are out there, be it local, regional, 48 state, you name it. It's understanding the types of credit that you've utilized in the past. But most importantly, it's on our one-to-one phone interview process. What we do is we want to understand your business. How are we going to do that? If it's a single truck deal, we're going to call you and do a phone interview. We want to know what makes you tick. What are your hot buttons? If it's a fleet, a large fleet, we're going to come out and do site visits. One of the benefits of being locally owned, we can get out to you. We want to talk to you and your staff. See what your hot buttons are. What are your concerns? And then we're going to structure a deal that best suits your needs. I want to talk a little bit about the flexibility and use some live deals that we've done in the past. I think this will capture some of what we've done. You'll get to see some of the creative ways that we've been able to get around certain challenges to give the customer a flexible financing package. The first one is customer A. Now keep in mind the national average is a 676 FICO score, and the industry threshold is 660. She came to us with a 619 FICO score. She had never driven a truck before in her life. She was in the middle of a foreclosure, and she had financed the business, get this, using 23 credit cards. 23 credit cards. She started out as a dispatch operator working for a trucking firm. That was her background, that was her exposure and experience. And she wanted 10 trucks. So there was a lot to do. And for us, she was a Spanish speaker, so the translation in English was challenging. First thing we did was, on our staff, we have Spanish speakers, so we were able to bring someone to make a comfortable environment to translate for her. Secondly, we sat down and we had a meeting. We wanted to talk about her business, her challenges, and I personally wanted to know, how did you do it with 23 credit cards? But we were able to find out that what she did, she paid cash for 2 trucks. And when those 2 trucks were up and running, she paid cash for another 2. And she paid on time, so banks kept giving her credit cards. And she would use those credit cards to buy old trucks. And she just built her business that way. But what we found was, you can't continue to do that through credit cards. And she needed a financing partner. So through some due diligence, we found out that she was eligible for her grant money. And through grant money, and as Sean mentioned before, CalCap, we got that customer approved for 10 trucks. Now she no longer uses her credit cards, and when she has a problem, she comes to us. The next one, customer B. Now, you remember the national average, 676, the industry, 660. This guy came in with a 570 FICO score. If you look at the charts, that would say it is a 61% chance of failure. 61%. If I gave you a gun and put 6 bullets in it, would you pull the trigger? I mean, it was really a tough deal. So he had been turned down by many of our partners in the financing deal. He was a former company driver, but he wanted to start his own business, and he had been doing so for about 1.5 years. Like a lot of Southern Californians in a challenging mortgage market, he was in the middle of a loan modification. Poor financial statement quality. When I say that, I said, let me see your financial statements. You've been around for 1.5 years. He came with a box of receipts and said, here it is. And so we said, okay. We realized it was going to require some work. And so we rolled up our sleeve, we got on the phone with his accountant, and we were able to provide some financial statements out of that. In fact, we took it a step further. We contacted one of our third-party sources who, on a monthly basis, will take his receipts and create financial statements for him. And actually, you'll be able to talk to them later on after this, and they're over on the side. He was a chronic slow payer, and I asked him, why don't you pay your bills? He said, what bills? And I said, okay, here we go. And it was just, he wasn't organized. And so by taking those receipts and putting it in a statement which everyone could understand, he'd be more organized, and maybe, hopefully, he could start paying his bills in a timely fashion. But the one thing he did have, he had cash, and he had plenty of it. So even though you saw a 570 FICO score, and I'm oftentimes asked, well, what if my FICO score is poor? That doesn't really matter, because Crossroad looks beyond that. That's not the only driving factor. We're looking at, do you understand the business? How long have you been in the industry? What are the challenges? Do you have a good working relationship with your haul source? It's those types of things that help us get around the fact of a simple score alone. So this gentleman wanted 4 2011 trucks. We verified with his haul source because we realized with a 570, there's some challenges, and I'm not going to lie to you. There's some challenges that you just can't overcome. But we said it had to be a joint effort. We got on the phone with his haul source, and lo and behold, through due diligence, we found out he had an ironclad contract. Well, that was all we needed. Based on that, we could tie out a payment plan that made sense for him. It satisfied his haul source in getting the new trucks, customer approved. And the last one I want to talk about is an LMC. 2 gentlemen, father, son, came together. They took all their resources. They borrowed on their 401k. They took savings. They borrowed from family. And they purchased a business going out of business. In doing so, they tapped out all their resources. So when I went to them to say, do you have any money down? They said, we have none. I said, well, can you borrow any equity on your house or anything? They said, we're upside down. I said, well, let's talk through this a little bit more. And what we found was these guys had been renting some trucks because they couldn't afford them, but they could rent some trucks. Well, that rental payment, though it wasn't the full payment on a monthly basis of a new truck, it got us pretty close. By aligning that rental payment, leveraging CalCap, and we're going to talk about CalCap, we were able to get that customer approved as well. So hopefully those are 3 live deals that we've done in our portfolio that show we're not worried or hung up on FICO score. We're not worried or concerned how much money down you have. We're going to work with you to earn your business. So I've been mentioning CalCap, and I think it's important that we talk about it. CalCap, unlike the other programs that Sean mentioned, this one isn't a scrap and replace. And some of the key criteria to qualify for this program, 100 or fewer employees. You must have 10 million or less over a 3-year period in revenue. And you may qualify up to 1.5 million per applicant. That's a pretty large number, I think, for a smaller fleet. And as of May 20th, only 1.5 million of the committed funds have been leveraged. So I need your assistance so I can get that number up. At Crossroads, once we were qualified, Crossroads is the fastest growing CalCap lender. Let me say that again. Since we've been approved, Crossroads is the fastest growing qualified lender in this program. So we're trying to leverage it, and we need your assistance in doing so. As Sean mentioned before, the VIP 3 or less, the 1B 20 or more, there's going to be a large segment of trucks that simply don't have grant money. There's none there. We still can provide financing solutions for you. So it's important you to know you're not out in the woods or by yourself. At the end of this, please, I encourage you to go to the credit table, fill out a credit app. We can still work with you with grants or without grants to achieve your business needs. And in closing, I want to give you some of the things we try to live by at Crossroads. We believe that each customer is entitled to superior customer service, and we want to have that one-on-one relationship with you, be it a fleet or be it an owner-operator. We want to have that understanding. We believe our local presence gives us a unique understanding in the marketplace. We know that you have options out there, and we encourage you to come to us. We believe through constant customer interaction. We want it to be a partnership, a give and take. And if we do that, even if you're running into some challenging times and you're not getting the loads or whatever it may be, if you come and talk to us, we're able to work out a deal that makes sense for you. We're involved in our local organizations that we think will help benefit our customers and stakeholders. And finally, we believe we have the skill set and knowledge to get you a financing solution that works for you. Thank you.